Welcome to Unraveling Midlife. I'm your host, Sarah Spence. Thanks for joining me, and if you're new to the show, welcome. Today's show is a full moon special, and today it's even an eclipse, which gives the opportunity to change tack in life depending on where the eclipse falls in your astrological chart. Unraveling Midlife is loosely based on astrological midlife, relating to Western astrology transits that run from the mid-30s to the mid-40s for everyone. Each of the four main midlife transits have an overall theme, though details vary by generation and by individual. And I recommend episode 9 of this show with Harsha Rigney for the Western astrology overview. Today's Eclipse special is a discussion between 3 former guests and 1 future guest from the interview episodes of Unraveling Midlife. We all happened to be together at a very late in the season gathering, New Zealand Spirit Festival. Due to gathering restrictions over the summer, we ended up with an autumn festival where we were incredibly lucky to have abnormally warm weather while we camped. Though I did take a kettle and a hot water bottle. All of us on today's discussion contributed at the festival. I sang alongside Muriel Christinai and led a kirtan after our Saturday night fire ceremony, led by Swami Karma Karuna. And I also facilitated a Delving into Dreams workshop. So it was delving into dreams, both waking and sleeping. Following on from this, I'll be leading an online 3-part course on the same topic, but going deeper and using other tools. We'll be using the Dalian method, which is the best tool I have found to gain inner clarity, as well as the dream method, Swami Radha's dream method, which we did discuss in episode 6 and which we covered in the workshop itself. The course is 3 Monday nights, and we're starting on the 13th of June 2022 this year, and it's after Mercury comes out of retrograde, and you can use the discount code to get 25% off, and that is NZ Spirit. So 25% off discount code NZ Spirit, and you can find the course details on my website and socials. Featured on today's discussion panel, we have classical tantra teacher Cara Leah, we have My Joy Body cleanse and yoga specialist Annalise Kugler, who also did a really very relaxing hair brushing workshop at the festival. I know it sounds a bit unusual, but we will definitely cover that when I interview her later this year. We have Christine Spicer of Human Design New Zealand and Swami Karma Karuna of Anahata Yoga Retreat. And me. Clearly featuring local seagulls and background campers, plus throughout and at the end keep an ear out for Joyda and Katana singing in the background. There are videos online of their set, and it was a really, really good set. I heard about it and then I watched it later. But you can also hear it a little bit on our discussion today. So because of the outside setting and the one microphone we all gathered around, the audio is a bit varied in loudness and softness. So please bear with it and enjoy the live nature of the show today.
The birds have spoken.
The birds have spoken.
We can fly.
We can fly. So here we are at NZ Spirit and thought we'd have a conversation about, I don't know, I'm going to ask you to talk about that, Carolia.
Okay.
You just put it so eloquently.
We wanted to have a conversation about the transition that begins to happen once women hit 35, where there might be more lines coming in, the body might be beginning to change. There's a lot of conditioning around what it means to age as a woman. And hello birds! And some women can start to feel like they're losing their attractiveness, or they're losing their sensuality, or they're becoming invisible. And I'm 46, and my experience has almost been the opposite in some ways. It's like I'm sorting my shit out. I'm way more awesome than I ever used to be because I've dissolved so much conditioning. So there's a sense of, the wrinkles are coming in. You know, like my body is changing, these things are happening, but that's not the definition of who or what I am. What I am is the power and the energy that radiates from the inside. And so I thought if we did a panel discussion, we could transmit that to other women who may not yet have got the message.
Yeah, but this way we actually get to transmit it a bit further afield, and we don't get to rely on people on festival timing who suddenly realise that, well, they have no idea what time it is and they've missed the workshop they wanted to go to. Yeah, and I find that interesting because I'm the youngest of the group sitting here, and I'm still in that astrological midlife, and I hear that too about becoming more of who I am, and also having had the experience of talking to all these wonderful women so far in the last year and a bit. I just observed that everyone kind of had some sort of shift in their early 40s, and or something that happened, whether it was like a big traumatic thing. Usually there was some kind of aspect of that, and then finding direction that settled. And to the extent that some people, then maybe that was 15 years ago, they were a bit like, oh, what happened? And then when they look back, they're like, oh yeah, actually I kind of got in line with what I'm doing now. Yeah. But yeah, we were actually having this conversation the other morning about wrinkles, and someone said, oh, my friends are like asking me if I want to do Botox. Like, oh,
Which is totally cool.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with doing the Botox thing, but it's a recognition of what's underlying that urge. Right? And if it's coming from that sense of fear or that sense of insecurity, or, you know, then that's not a powerful action per se. So, but there's also an underlying assumption there that wrinkles are bad. And to challenge that assumption, wrinkles just are wrinkles. There's nothing inherently bad or unsexy or unbeautiful about wrinkles. They just are.
Except the narrative that we've got. This narrative that we've got. That's the thing that tells us that they're unsexy. And it's everywhere.
And it's so deep, it's so unconscious.
Yeah. So that's the conditioning that we're working through, I think. And also the other thing, I think at this time, we've never been in this situation before as humanity. So we've never had such technology. We've never had the capacity to share our stories so far and wide. So I'm premenopausal, looking at that, and I've never had a story about that. It's always been shut down. So we have this potentiality to share and empower the women that are coming through with these new narratives. And I think it's a very powerful and also responsibility, you know, for us in this time. I'm Annalise, by the way.
Someone I was talking to on one of my podcasts, Karen, who is actually just across the field at the festival at the moment, and she offered that potentially it's biological, that, because we were talking and she said, oh, you know, you go into the post office, and whereas before there would have been some kind of energetic recognition that she was there, as she gets older, it's almost like she doesn't exist. I'm sorry, Karina, if I'm paraphrasing wrongly, but even my mum says things like that. Like, now I just watch, she says. Have you anyone experienced that?
I think there's also a natural phase of stepping back a little bit. If you look at the yogic kind of, I'm Swami Karma Karina, but if you look at the yoga way of aging, there's the first 0 to 25 we call the education phase of life, and then the 25 to 50 is householder, where we're giving out and maybe having children or going through that cycle of being in society. And then from 50 to 75 is forest dweller, where we start to step back and be more in our own wisdom, but coming back to this idea of so much unconscious conditioning. And showing up to this podcast, it's just so beautiful and so aligned because I got here to this festival, and for me it was like, oh my God, I'm so old here. Everybody's so young. Look at all these young women and their little bikinis, and I could really feel that kind of conflict, inner conflict, and lots of work on myself over many years. And I shared that with one of my elders, and Vasumi, who some of you might know, and she said, oh my God, when you walked up, all I felt was power and presence and energy, and here you are shining. and yet that wasn't what I was feeling within myself. And so it's that real unconscious deep patterning that we have to somehow unmantle to be able to stand in that power, because it is power. Yeah. So, and I feel feeling that also at an internal level, but it's so difficult when the body changes. And for me, I've gained weight, and just don't feel at the physical level. Energetically, I feel powerful, but physically, it's a shift, and it's very difficult to kind of weave my way through it with the conditioning. Growing up in a ski town and all.
Yeah. Well, for me, so. I'm Christine, and I'm in a different phase of life to all of you. So, yeah, I'm this year becoming 60 years old.
No. Wouldn't have
Older.
No, wouldn't guess it either.
And I'm still getting used to that. Wow, I'm going to be 60 years old. I can't quite grasp that I will be 60, because I'm very aware of what kind of ideas I must have about, in my body and in my mind, about, well, what does 60 look like, feel like, act like, be like? And I feel like none of that. So I know that's my conditioned mind. I know that's the messages that have come from outside of me that I've absorbed. But what I find, arriving here, was just this huge sense of relief. It's like, wow, I don't have to worry about any of that stuff anymore that I used to be concerned about. All those things about how how young I looked, or, what, all of that. I just feel like I can be and wander and do whatever I feel like, and choose, and whether I'm seen or I'm not seen, well, it's all the same, really. It's like I just can enjoy what I'm choosing. And and I look at all these young, beautiful beings, these young women, and I think about, what did I look like, and how did I criticise myself when I had that skin? When I had that beautiful skin, and those smooth legs. How did I criticise myself about it not being good enough?
Yeah.
And I did. I did. And I look back at photos of myself and I think, wow, you were so gorgeously beautiful, and you criticised yourself. So, so I feel like I've got to this stage in my life, and just the freedom of just choosing me and not worrying about what the outside world is saying about that.
And I do feel like that arises. I can feel it coming up in me. I feel like I don't really care what you think. And there's definitely an aspect, as like I'm 51 now, so almost 52, and I can feel that energy rising. But somehow you do still have to move through. You have to crack it open to get there.
And it wasn't like, I'm not saying it was like that the whole time in that journey towards where I'm now. Of course, I've been in that process of wrinkles, grey hair. I've got I'm nearly grey. I used to have black hair, and I've never dyed my hair, but now I love it.
Own it.
Yeah.
I remember when I was 30 and I just come home from overseas, and I was looking in the mirror and I saw wrinkles for the first time, and I was looking at a photo of myself in my early 20s. I was like, oh my God, I look so young. But in that moment I had a recognition. I was like, I'm never going to look as young in the mirror again as I do right now. And I realized that if I was to be looking at myself in the mirror at 30 and worrying about my wrinkles, when I was 35 I'd be wishing I was 30. So it was a sense of like, every time I look in the mirror is to really love and appreciate what I see, because this too will be gone very soon.
Yes.
And I think that just really became a practice, which now when I look in the mirror, any moment that the mind or the conditioning goes to, oh my God, more wrinkles, I go, no, this is as young as I will ever be. I'm so going to enjoy what I look like now.
Yeah.
Work it, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's that challenge of starting to look after the body, because I think, early on in life, there's this natural youth that carries us through so much. And then there comes a point where looking after our bodies differently has to be a priority, because our bodies can't take all of that anymore. And so there's a big shift that has to happen in order to still feel good in my body now.
And permission to give ourselves time and do things differently. For me, a lot of it is my self-permission. And instead of allowing expectations from outside to shape what we do and how we feel, it's like that inner permission. Yes.
Yes.
I can rest.
I think also the thing that I love about my body right now is the feedback. So for me, contrast in the body, or information, which is what some people might call pain or discomfort, I call information, is a place that I can go to and get a bigger understanding of the roadmap of this being and what its needs are in this now. And I've never had so much feedback in my body. So I've just been living my 20s and my 30s, yeehaw, literally yeehaw, stunts. I was stunt queen. I did everything. I've broken so many bones in my body, just threw it at life. Did lots of yoga, super flexible, and now I'm kind of so damaged, but it's so interesting. And I call this my university because, I mean, that's what I do. I'm a somatic body explorer, and I go in and I find things, and every time I find something, I go, wow, I understand this, and I can share this understanding. So I know more about my hamstrings, or the way that my body works, or just this mechanics that I can take to other people, because I've got this information and feedback that I've never had before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and
Inner listening.
And it's been, I love it. And every time that I manage to dissolve something in my body that's been, I get a deeper level. And now I'm working with samskaras and the energetic body, and I've got this capacity, because the information has pulled me so deeply into my body. I can hear my thoughts, I can feel the neurotransmitters firing, I can feel samskaras, and I can feel external vikalpas, thought patterns. So I can feel where my thought patterns are in my energetic body. And I'm getting there now because of, that's what I'm saying, that because there's so much information, so much potential resource on the inside, I can go there and go deep.
Anyone want to offer a quick definition of samskara?
Samskara is any undigested, or one definition, undigested emotion. So if you felt something at any point in your life that you didn't have the capacity to fully feel, it gets like locked away in the body, and this is where triggers come from. So a big part of the work that I've done over the last few years is seeking out those samskaras and recognizing them for what they are and digesting them, and then noticing that, oh my God, now my thought patterns have changed, now my behavior has changed, now these situations that used to trigger the out of me just don't anymore. And I say that is such an enormous benefit to getting older, is I've had the time and the space to dissolve the conditioning on that energetic and emotional level, so I can be what I am, rather than be so scared all the time and moving from fear or insecurity or what will they think. And
Samskaras is what some people refer to as the issues in the tissues.
That's nice.
And that's, I've heard that before, and I was like, oh, I know exactly what that is. And it's so interesting, because for me the yogic tradition, and especially the classical tantra tradition, is now giving me names to all of these things that I found in my body. And I'm like, wow, that's a real thing. I didn't just make that up. Nope, that's a real thing. It's called a samskara. Wow.
And it's got the word scar in there. So it's almost like, another way of looking at it is that it's trauma. Anything that's undigested, which we haven't been able to deal with, has been stored away for the time then that we can tap into it and use it to nourish our being going forward. And I think that's the way I like to think about it is, it's all been tucked away in my body and my cells for, however long. And then something in life comes along and I feel it. And that's the point, to digest it as if it was maybe some kind of meal that I couldn't quite digest at the time, but now I can digest it. And then as I digest it, the nourishment goes into my body and then out into my life. And that's what allows me to heal. And that's what I mean when I say looking after the body. I'm not talking about going running. I'm not talking about doing more exercise. I'm talking about tapping into the intelligence of the body.
Yeah. And we can also think of samskaras from a positive point of view. So it's the conditioning and the seeds, which I feel kind of what you just said, how it kind of starts to come out in a positive way and nourish you and support you. And so when we nourish ourselves with the right kind of environments, with people that support us, with conditioning that's positive, that also can awaken. And as we start to know ourselves more and we start to peel away the layers and let go of those samskaras that don't support us or kind of derail us, then we can actually feel into and tune into the power spots within ourselves. And so also from the yogic point of view, you can think of samskaras as positive, negative, or neutral. I mean, we have to give some language to it, but also there are those positive aspects that get to rise up as we begin to know ourselves more, and that certainly occurs as we get into these mid-years.
Oh, I love that, because I wondered, there's the classical Tantra perspective and then the perspective from the yoga tradition that I've studied with you, and then another, so much wisdom.
Yeah, that's right, just because, those scars, if we think about a scar on the body, those scars can sometimes tell amazing and wonderful stories that become empowering stories. And that's the way I like to think of also conditioning, that conditioning is not all bad. People can get really attached to this idea that conditioning is somehow bad, but conditioning is just influence that comes from outside of us.
Exactly.
And then the way it meets us is then got to do with our dance in life. And life is here to be lived and enjoyed. It's not here to be avoided and said, oh, that's going to condition me, so, it's not that.
My teacher, my guru in India, he speaks about, for the children, that, put yantras and mantras and these types of things around, because it will imprint a positive samskara. So it allows then that positivity to arise. So...
One of the other things that we were talking about when we were planning what time we were going to get together to chat, one of the things we're talking about is power, and how with some, I see all of you that I'd still, obviously still in your power completely, but there are people, and sometimes I feel like that, where there's a sense of getting older and not having permission to really fully be in the power. Do you remember what we're talking about in that respect?
I think a lot has to do sometimes with where energy is going and how people are sourcing their power. So I know when I was a younger woman that I was often looking for validation from men, for example. So I was seeking power through men. It was like trying to hijack it. Whereas then once I'd done more practice, yay for practice,
Yay for practice.
Yay for practice.
Absolutely.
Yay all the time. Once I'd done more practice, etc., then there was just a sense of starting to really feel power from within. And for me, it came a lot through the dance floor. I partied a lot in my 20s on all kinds of substances. and then found festivals in 2015 and was like I was so conditioned to let loose on the dance floor, but without the substances now, and that made me feel so powerful. Surrendering to the music, surrendering to the flow, surrendering to energy, to Sahaja, to the goddess, and just from doing that gave me a source of power that was within. And then combine that with embodiment practice, like yoga practice, and then chanting practices and meditation practices. All of these things brought me to that power within. And I suspect as women start to age, this may or may not be true, and they feel as if they're losing their looks, etc., they feel as if they're losing a source of power. Right? That's, sexuality is a currency. Looks are a currency. And so if there's a sense of losing that, there's like, oh shit, I won't be powerful if I don't have that. I better do what's needed. And all the advertising, of course, is trying to sell products, etc., that are going to like Botox or whatever. And so the implication is if you do this, you can retain your power.
Yes.
But the underlying assumption is incorrect, because power is not in the physical form. It's in the energetics, and you access it from within through practice.
And it's not external to us, it's internal to us. And the more we practice, the more we can tune in and really, draw that up and then direct it and manifest and move in the world in a more conscious way.
Yeah, and I think the journey towards that power also includes all those moments, and if I think about my own life, all those moments where I was faced with letting go of any idea that I could have power through how I specifically looked, that there was a time, of course, where I was trading on the way I looked and how that was, in the business world in particular. It was a currency, definitely a currency.
Yeah,
I had a quite a high-powered job in the corporate world, and looking good and dressing well and everything. That was kind of all part of the game, if you like. And then I remember this very confronting ferry ride I had. I don't know how old I would have been. I might have been mid-40s, and I was on the ferry, and there was this ex-CEO who'd known me maybe 15 years ago, and he introduced me to his wife, and he said, "Oh, this is Christine. She used to be really good looking."
Oh,
and I was like my whole, I just can remember this imploding feeling inside of me, because at that point I was in my mid-40s. I didn't feel like that was gone, but this was this that was the CEO of that business that I used to work in, and there we go, the currency that was traded on, and it was right in my face. And I remember going home and looking in the mirror and thinking, wow.
I hope his wife told him off something good after that.
That to me feels like a deliberate disempowering move. He might have done it unconsciously, but that's just like...
Oh, it was horrendous.
Yeah.
And his wife did say, she hit him actually, and she said, "Oh, don't be ridiculous, she still looks lovely," or something like that, but...
This little kid called me an old lady yesterday, and I said, "Did you call me an old lady? Come here, I'm going to kick you in the pants." And I got my fist out and I started to shake my fist, and I ran at him like an old lady, and he scarpered. And then he came back, and I looked at him and I said, "I am not." Maybe I am.
I'm just a witch.
I'm a woman.
I actually quite like being the witch sort of archetype to children. I've always considered myself actually an old lady when I'm in my witch, because I do cackle at the children, and I do get a little bit dark, and I do kind of rule with a little bit of fear and magic.
You've got an oven, Hansel and Gretel might just go in there.
And I threaten to eat them all the time. I eat little children, especially tasty ones like you. Come here.
Yeah, well, these are the archetypes, aren't they? These are the archetypes that we are presented with. We're either presented with the young, beautiful maiden goddess,
virgin,
with the, sexual power and the alluring, being, and or the witch, and and there's actually not much in between.
There's
and I think
mother.
This is slut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's mother, but people
But
don't
mother.
tend to kind of, they're just in the background.
That's
with
right.
the bringing up the children.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, that's not
in
true
my
in this day and
women's
age,
gatherings,
so
we
much,
talk about when you get to be 50 and that in between, it's the queen stage.
Oh yes,
So,
thank you.
so this is what I'm owning.
Of course. The
Actually,
queen.
just mentioning the children, there's one thing I've got a 13-year-old daughter who's just come into her moon time. Now I'm not yet letting go of my moon time, but it's it's starting to change. Now, so freaking interesting. She's starting to construct her identity. And I am starting to deconstruct my identity. And it's so fucking interesting.
Wow.
And now I say to her, be careful what clothes you put on, because those are the clothes you're going to wear for your life. And I said to her, I'm taking off so much shit that I put on for so many of the wrong reasons. It's like, and I'm even asking myself, it's like, do I actually like gardening? Or did I just do that because I thought that was a good person? Do I like hip-hop? Or did I just like hip-hop because it made me feel cool, masculine and safe? And I'm really in this phase where I'm just taking off the costumes and just going, and this is another piece that I love, is this serving my soul? So there's some things that I'm choosing to keep, like my humour, my humour with a witch, but it really actually serves my soul's purpose of communication. So it's a beautiful thing to be looking at both ends of that spectrum and reflecting to each other. Hi Willow. I love you. Shame.
Yeah. And I think, for women who are at that stage of starting to look less at their outer appearance and move into the inner world, it's about finding that inner set of personal instructions that are your own nature, and this is from a human design perspective, your own imprint, which is aligned with nature. And that's what I learnt to move from, my natural imprint, and that's then what's allowed my body to kind of relax and feel better than it did, when I was in my early 40s. So
There's
so
hope.
Important,
There's
what you're
hope.
saying.
there's hope.
It feels so
Yay.
important. It feels so important what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's a way.
There is a way.
There's a way that's my way, and I'm designed that way.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. That's your personal instructions. So this is, I think, part of what the conditioning is, because the conditioning is, there's an image that you need to somehow force yourself into, and if you don't quite fit that image, or if it's not natural, then there's all this effort that has to go on to push yourself into this image, and yet really what you are designed for and what is perfect for you and what is going to make you glow and be powerful and relax inside your body is really specific to you. It's not.
Hallelujah.
It's not out there in the advertising of, how we should all be.
Saying to someone the other day that a lot of us in this community and here at the festival and anything really, I remember a couple of years ago in astrology class, made the observation, so really we're all here in the whole self-development industry, we're really all here to realise that we're actually okay as we are.
Yep. You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not broken.
Yeah.
Don't
But
need
we all
to.
do get to come together and remind ourselves that we're not broken, and there's that relaxation as you walk in and go, I can just be who I am.
And that's why I love these festivals.
Yeah, well, I've been feeling a little bit of pressure to be. My friends laugh at me because they're like, "Oh, were you in bed? Are you in bed?" Because I go to bed I quite like to go to bed early.
Me too.
And I actually really, part of me wants to be. Well, I think it's because I want to get jiggy with it. I want to get you propositioned on the dance floor like you did last night.
Oh, nice.
I quite like that, but there's nobody. out at 6 a.m. when I'm doing my shit, going to proposition me going, hey, that's a really nice mantra you've got going on there, older lady. So there is this kind of pull that but what you said was like, this is me. I am up at 6 and I am doing my shit and I fucking love it. And 9:30, 10 o'clock, I'm starting to wane. And it's like, can that be okay? Yeah, that actually, it can be okay.
Yeah.
Just not getting any action.
Yeah, but the mind thinks that that's how you're going to miss out on action. But the truth is that if your imprint, if your personal instructions are telling you that at 6 o'clock in the morning that's what you need to be doing, there might be one being who also
chanting mantras
is going to be walking past at 6 a.m. and it's that being.
I've never heard the Ganesh mantra sung so sweetly. Oh, dulcet tone, older woman. Come over to my tent. Oh, not now. I must chant.
You might meet that person in the afternoon on a beanbag at a festival.
That's the thing, people.
That's gold, mate.
Yeah, look, people make these decisions from the mind that they have to get things in certain ways, and the only way to do it is to do X, Y, and Z. But actually, what I've found in my life is when I do the things that are aligned with my own movement and dance in the world of my energy and how my body feels and my own personal instructions, amazing things happen. Things I could never have organised for myself.
Yeah, it feels like a big kind of like I've just taken off a big backpack. My festival backpack's just come off. It's like, oh yeah, okay. And thank you.
I went to sleep at 8:30 last night.
I went to sleep at 8:30 on Friday night, and I went to sleep at 10:30 last night. So I'm with you. And I had the same kind of conflict. I was standing in the, it was a great band playing, and I really wanted to be there, but I was cold. I was tired. I danced a lot during the day, and I was like, do I push myself? Nah. And I didn't. I just went and cuddled myself, and it was beautiful.
I remember the first 5 years of coming. It's been 15 years for me on the Conscious Festival circuit. I remember the first 5 years getting on my festival boots, which I still wear, and getting out there, and it was like I had to make an appearance and see people and say hi and have them remember me. And I would do that, and then I'd kind of crawl to bed at midnight, which is still not very late, but I've always been a bit of a nana like that. And then I'm like, you know what? I can't be bothered. It's just making me tired. It's just making me tired. So yeah, I just do my thing.
I think that's it. We know ourselves more, and so then we kind of honor that, isn't
I
it?
have to put in another perspective on this. I went to bed last night at about 2:33, and I didn't really sleep much, because I was so activated and alive. And the night before it was 2:33, same. I absolutely love to dance, and I'm a natural night owl. Like I partied my ass off in my 20s, and I would stay up. I'd have half an hour's sleep. I'd go work an 8-hour shift at the Après ski bar, hucking huge trays right above my head all day long, and then I would go and dance a set at the nightclub that I worked in, and then I'd go out and party again. Like it was just.
Were you hucking them?
Hucking, like.
That's what you call
Is that an
Well,
expression?
No, like
there?
it must be a Canadian expression to huck something.
Well, I didn't work in hospo, so I don't know.
I don't think it's hospo related. But what I found, so yesterday I was so freaking tired already, but it was one more night of dancing in community, and so much magic happens, and I have become really wise at knowing how to hydrate myself and knowing what snacks to have in my pocket. So I have dates that are quite moist, and then I have raspberry coated chocolate almonds.
Good.
And knowing when to have the chai, and just being really like treating the body like this temple so that I can sustain it. So I can dance. I danced for probably 6 or 7 hours last night, and I was, the body was definitely freaking tired and sore, but the energy wanted to move, and so I could just allow the body to do it. And because I love it so much, my intention is, I'm 46 now, is I'm going to keep moving this much and keep channeling the energy this much so that I can still be on that dance floor at 2 a.m, possibly when I'm 60, and just racking it up, because that's my natural nature.
That's your nature.
Yeah.
This is the thing. And it's knowing what your nature is. It's not that there's going to bed early's right or staying up late's right. It's that you honour your nature and your body, you know, and that's what you're doing is you're honouring that, and that's what will give you a body that you feel comfortable in when you're 60.
Yes.
You know,
It'll be conditioned by all the dancing.
Oh, those beautiful samskaras.
I love dancing. You know, the night before that I was up probably till 11 dancing. But, you know, I just don't have rules for myself. I just have, well, what does my body need right now?
Yes.
That's it. What does my body need now?
Preferences. I like dancing in the morning, like in the
I
late
like
morning.
showing off as well, so I quite like a lot of
Light.
space around me.
And people can see you in
Yeah,
light.
people can see me, see my go-past moves, and you know, I think that
We need to dance together more. I go to the very back outside.
Yeah, you guys have to
outside
meet in the
tent.
middle.
Yes, me too. Yeah,
Me too.
because then there's space.
I had a good dance
Get
with you. That was
wide,
probably the
get
best
down,
dance
get
I
low,
had.
get
Yeah,
high.
at the back of the main stage on the where there's a floor that it's not pitted. You know that when you put your foot down, you're not gonna like roll over. Taking care. Taking care.
what an honour to hear these kind of. Well, I think we've got like a decade maybe.
Not quite.
Not
but
quite, but sort of, you know, so the 30s to the 60s. It's really lovely to
I
see.
love you, Annalise.
Lovely to see how.
I'm still in my 30s. Yeah. See how conditioned I am. No, it's just you implied that. So.
People say that to me all the time. I love you, Annalise. So it's just like, wow, thanks. I don't know why you love me now. What did I do?
It's something you said,
Yeah.
like last week on Facebook. You did a live video, and I like quoted some of you back in a comment, and you're like, "Did I say that?"
Did I say that? Freestyle. What was the thing? Oh yeah, just honouring like how much richness there is just in that phase, and how much we can learn from each other. Like, you know, there's not like wow, what an honour.
I often see, well, occasionally, often. I don't know. I was on a retreat. It was a 5 Rhythms retreat, and I remember seeing some ladies, and one was having a conversation with someone about Botox, and then there was another lady who wasn't having that conversation at all, and she had the most beautiful wrinkled skin, and she had the most beautiful energy, and I thought, I want to be like her when I grow up.
That's key. I reckon that's absolutely freaking critical, is to find the older women who radiate like goddesses and to go, that's where I'm going. Because if they are doing it, I can do it.
I often think that about Christine, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, it is. It's a real thing, because then you've got a model, and it's not in the advertising world or the marketing world or the social media world or the filters world or the Botox. Just like find those women. You find them at festivals.
There are wise women too.
Yeah.
And, you know, can be mentored, and I think we all need that, whatever language you want to use for that guidance of somebody who's walked the path. So
It's important to have friends of all ages.
Absolutely.
I find.
yeah.
I remember with 30s I went to an anthroposophical conference. The anthroposophy is the Steiner religion, and all of these women, just like these older women, they all had grey hair down to their bums, and they were all wearing silk, and they all just were upright in their nature and their bodies, and they flowed everywhere, and I was just like, wow. And they could all recite poetry. I was just like, wow. And I was quite a grimy kid, you know, like I was quite a grimy teenager, quite rough and boy-like, and I just thought, oh yeah, same as you, Sarah, when I grow up, I want to be like you. Yeah.
And on our growing up mission, as we grow up and into the world and shed the skins,
Yes.
so too we will come back into the outside world later. Not that I want to remind you of that. And by the time this goes live, it'll be interesting to see how you're all doing in the time in between. You can hear everyone's waking up in the background along the way, people packing up.
I love the stage
More
of the
music.
festival. We're just wandering around, and everyone's quite rinsed.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And
Agendas are fulfilled or not.
Yeah, and there's more cohesion energetically, because people have danced together and they've sung together and they've practiced together and they've done all these things
Stared
together.
into each other's eyes in workshops.
Yeah.
Not that that's every workshop at all, but there's
Yeah.
definitely a couple.
Yeah, and it's just such a beautiful time to wander through and just let, for me, I just let life take me and
Yes.
see where I end up. It becomes like a bit of a game.
and following that kind of inner direction. And I practice that at festivals. Just where's my body arising? What's arising to change my direction? Where to go right
I do
now?
that too, and I even like follow colours. I'll follow colours, I'll follow beats, I'll follow faces that look interesting. So I literally will remove my orientation to what interests me. It's quite interesting. And then all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, you're here. Wow, you know.
This morning I followed the Hare Krishna, with, the one that you interviewed on your Sita Pati Das with his accordion. I love the accordion, so I was like, So I stuck my gumboots on and started walking with them and kind of felt for everyone still trying to sleep in the tents. Thank you, ladies, so much for coming and chatting.
So
Thanks,
beautiful.
Sarah, for
Thank
setting
you.
it up.
Send it
Yeah,
out into the
amazing.
world to whoever listens.
It's so incredible to meet some new, wonderful, inspiring Shaktis.
Yes, it's beautiful to meet all of you because I've heard
connect.
some of you on the podcast, so I'll listen with interest again. now.
Yes.
Yeah,
And keep your ears open for when we do one with Annalise too.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for what you're doing. It's giving a voice to, quite a underrepresented. It's the underrepresented. Oh God, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you for giving us a voice.
Oh, you're very welcome. Carolee is also to thank for that.
Yes, thank you,
Yes.
Carolia. Thank you.
Just felt important because I was like, man, all these women, there's so much power that could be accessed, and when women come into power, women were the ones that led. They always were.
Yes.
Well, they still really do, but a lot of society kind of somewhat pretends that maybe we're not. I don't know. Anyway, times change.
Time to stand up.
Kia ora.
Unraveling Midlife is brought to you from Aotearoa, New Zealand by www.sarahmarlowspence.com. Theme music is by Sarah Marlowe Spence and Saraswati Marie Willis, and art by Samantha Hepburn.